Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. It's been too long since my last confession. I've been preoccupied of late with questions of morality. Of right and wrong. Good and evil.
Perhaps this would be easier if you tell me what you've done.
How did it happen?
You will suffer.
You think this is still about you?
I'm just trying to make my city a better place.
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Alonso, Duralde, William Bibbiani, Francis Maxwell. Netflix's Daredevil. We're going to do an episode-by-episode breakdown. It's floating in the air in here.
Flying elves are back.
I have seen the first 3. You've seen the whole thing.
I was up till 5 a.m. on like Saturday.
It clearly emphasizes what
Yeah.
this
Wow,
show's like.
okay.
Love this show.
you
I'm
were
on
seeing-
episode 4.
Okay, so we're at various degrees, and we're going to just really try and break this down on an episode-by-episode thing without projecting too much into the future, but, but sometimes it's hard not to.
We're aware that you guys have seen a variety
A
of
good
different
chunk
episodes.
or
Perhaps
less
all
or
of it,
more.
so
Yeah, who knows?
we'll
Major
do our
spoilers.
best.
Yeah.
It's tough to review Netflix shows. They release them
I
weird.
know.
You know, we could spend like half an hour or an hour talking about the whole thing in context, and it takes us a while to see it.
Yeah, Daredevil Alexanderplatz. All right, so first episode is titled
Into the Ring.
I am really enjoying the Battle and Murdock flashbacks. I think that on paper they have the potential to be sort of, hoary or whatever, but I think they actually they really underline some interesting stuff. And so now we've got, we are introduced to blind lawyer Matt Murdock and his partner Foggy Nelson, aka William Bibbiani. I swear to God, every time there's...
Really?
Oh yeah, oh my God.
By his punchlines,
It
definitely.
can't
It
just
is
be
you.
me.
It is you.
I was watching Foggy Nelson going, oh my God, this is so Bibbs.
Oh my God, I am so flattered. Because I thought Foggy Nelson's like one of the best characters on the show.
No, he's so dorky you. know?
Wow.
I
okay,
immediately,
thank you, I guess. Weird.
I immediately believed their friendship is something that's went back in college.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
tell that there's just that time you just see on-screen chemistry and just like, okay, I get it. I immediately am involved in this. One point I wanted to make out straight away is that I feel that they did not abuse their Netflix power, like in the first episode.
How do you mean?
Because I felt that coming into this, going on Netflix, Marvel finally graduating into a scene where they can hit that adult audience. But Marvel have always kind of toyed between both, because with their superheroes, they're always supposed to appeal to a younger audience as well. And I felt coming into Daredevil, a dark character, they could have went all dark and they could have showed you blood, guts, and gore from the very start and kind of drew you in that way. But I didn't think they did that, and I like that about it. I like that they got me in naturally.
They're pacing themselves.
Yeah, they paced themselves. It's a great show. Of course, we know watching on a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin things for Alonso.
Things get a little bit violent.
Things get intense.
Yeah,
But it
no,
didn't
no.
go
Yeah.
completely Game of Thrones Dexter style. You know what I
Sure.
mean? And I like that about it. It's like, okay.
And I think also the thing is, it's worth noting that the show started off under showrunner Drew Goddard, who wrote Cabin in the Woods, and he wrote this pilot episode. And then he left to do Sinister 6 for Sony, which is not happening, apparently. So the show got taken over by Stephen Knight. Or DeKnight? Stephen DeKnight? Anyway, my point is that this episode was written, I think, maybe with a slightly different tone than where the series goes, but I think it goes gradually.
Yeah.
I think this is, in some respects, a very straight-up pilot. Of like this could have been a network series. This episode.
It is very the one thing that I'm not crazy about here, and you would think that because it's a Netflix show and because they're giving us all these episodes at a time that they wouldn't fall into this trap. But this does feel very piloty in that. They launch a story that I think had the potential to drag out, and they wrap it up real quick. I mean, it is granted the opening salvo of an ongoing arc for the season, the whole thing of the Kingpin's corruption and yada. But the as far as the actual murder case with Karen Page.
You thought just a murder could have carried the entire season?
Maybe the entire season, but at least 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Right.
That felt like a real fast resolution to me. And even though I know they needed to get out of the way and they have to set her up and
Right.
that didn't play as well for me.
There's an element of a lot of pilots when they need to establish a status quo very, very quickly.
Yes.
And as a result, in almost any pilot, even really good pilots, look at Breaking Bad's pilot, for example, some stuff feels a little rushed. The decision-making process, do I make this huge change in my life? So that feels, I'll grant you it feels a little bit rushed, but I will say that although, and I think you've even seen it in the first 3 episodes, although Karen's murder trial gets wrapped up fast, it has like lingering
It
tendrils.
escalates.
Yeah, no. Like I said,
affect the whole
it is
season.
like I said, it's the opening of an arc that's
Yeah.
going. But I just that felt a little rushed. But beyond that, I'm immediately in. I just from that first scene where Murdock is in confessional, and talking to the priest, I think he hasn't done yet, which I thought was a really
Yeah, I like
cool.
that.
I'm not seeking forgiveness for what I've done, Father. I'm asking forgiveness for what I'm about to do.
I love the fact that, and don't tell me when it happens, but 3 episodes in, there's still no red costume. Like
Yes.
that's
Oh, yeah.
that's,
Well, what's weird is, I didn't even realize this, I actually watched for the first time the TV movie The Trial of the Incredible Hulk about a week ago.
Okay.
And what I didn't realize was that The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, the Hulk's barely in it, it's a Daredevil movie. And it has, and it's the same costume
wow.
as this. It's the exact same costume, the black and the bandana over his eyes and everything, which apparently Stan Lee didn't even like because it gives away that he's blind.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's eerie actually how similar it is.
Do you know what this costume reminds me of? Is actually in the original appearance of Spider-Man in Marvel Comics, the hastily thrown together wrestling costume that
Yeah.
he puts together to get into the ring with that guy.
Yeah, this is very practical, and I think we're seeing
That or Zorro.
Yeah.
Kind of remind me a little bit of Zorro
Sure,
without
sure,
the eye
yeah.
mask.
But what's interesting about this Daredevil series, and we're already seeing in the first episode, the first couple episodes, is that it's not really an origin season. Although we get, obviously, the flashbacks and everything, we're seeing the initial origin. But we are watching him evolve into who he's going to be and seeing him make, get some successes under his belt, but also some mistakes very, very quickly.
And I liked it early on that they didn't show you the complete storyline of how he became what he is and how his senses evolved. They just showed us little snippets of it so they know that in that idea you can kind of prolong that throughout the season. You can show how he finally evolved into that character because you see him as a young age, he's blinded, but you don't really get the sense of how his other senses are evolving at that point.
You
And
don't
he can
get his
use that.
training
Yeah,
yet,
he doesn't get his
anything.
training,
Yeah.
which is good.
And thankfully they didn't give us any of those like sort of blurry POV shots where we're supposed to sense that would have I think been more awkward than.
I mean,
especially early on,
from a cinematography standpoint, some of the shots in this are fantastic. Like we
it's
can
good
talk
looking
about
show.
it later. We know we're going to talk about something like.
We're looking forward to
to
episode
talking
2.
about that. But
There's
I
some
wanted
good
to
stuff.
I wanted to touch really quick on the antagonist. I just felt refreshed to watch a show where the antagonists, it wasn't a battle of who's got the better superpowers, which I know is comic book-esque,
Sure.
right?
Right.
And I don't hold that against anyone. But these villains are villains that we can relate with today. Guys
Yeah.
who want to try and find money, find places to put money, who want to use it for their own benefit, and that straight away is what I love.
That has often been, I think it's Daredevil's niche in the Marvel Universe, comics and TV now, is that Daredevil is extremely street level. I mean, people call Spider-Man a street level superhero, but he still fights mad scientists who rob banks.
Yeah.
people with wings.
Daredevil, I mean, he'll fight the occasional supervillain, but mostly his villains are hired killers or ninjas, is about as crazy as it gets.
Yes.
And what we see, and what I think the best Daredevil stories have been, and this can go back to the Stan Lee era, you look at Brian Michael Bendis' run, is trying to apply very basic Catholic morality.
Yeah.
Good and evil. This is right and this is wrong. To a world and to a criminal and a justice system in which that doesn't apply.
Another man's evil does not make you good.
So here's a man, and we're seeing it right off from the beginning, who just sees this, I'm trying to do the right thing, even if I have to go about it outside the system.
Yeah.
But then we see the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
And we're going to start seeing them very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I think in the way that Frank Miller's Dark Knight really influenced the Tim Burton Batman and sort of what would become the standard language of the on-screen Batman, the Miller Mazzucchelli Daredevil run, I think is going to be at least one of the touchstones here.
And
I see a bit more, although Born Again, I think we're going to see some elements in this series, but I see more of the Brian Michael Bendis run, just in terms of the complexity and the sprawlingness, but whatever.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, going into it, is just immediately thinking about Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight and how he had to kind of overcome that boundaries of what he can do to be right, specifically in the scene with the Joker when he's wanting him to kill him, basically. I get that idea with Daredevil, and I don't know what his character will do to the extent of what he will do to the villains, if he's going to go that distance. I know that later on we see instances where he really wants to hurt them, and I like that because I love to see that the superheroes have got that human aspect, and they do.
And they don't spring as fully formed moral
of
creations.
course. And
they have to get there.
And this is what I think Marvel needed to graduate into competing with the likes of some of the shows that we've seen, because in Marvel, as I said at the start, they always have this idea of superheroes that can appeal to the younger generation. They're iconic, Fantastic Four, Avengers group, but they needed something to bring them back into the game. And using Netflix and Daredevil, I think, is going to help spiral them forward.
I think we got to wrap this one up, but I just want to say that, again, having been the one who's seen the whole season, not giving anything away, I think what Daredevil does better than any other Marvel property so far, movies or television, comics obviously are a different story, is I really do think it tackles with complex character issues. And we're starting to see the seeds of that in episode 1. It's only going to grow, it's only going to expand, and that's why, especially about halfway through the season, I was just like, I am so loving this show. I'm loving this show. For the action is great, the acting is great, but honestly, it's the intensity of the serious ethical, moral questions, and just people who are at odds with each other regardless of them or because of them.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's fascinating.
All right, and we will see how those aspects grow and deepen when we come back with episode 2.
If you dare.
Oh my God.